Hare Krishna. So, thanks everyone for joining. So, we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, and chapter 1. We have covered up to 30 verses. We'll just do a quick recap. So, chapter 1 is, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the setting the scene. So, that is the first chapter. And here the first verses, 11 verses, first 11 verses is preparing for the war. You know, how Duryodhana was manipulating the situation and telling Drona and Bhishma to fight the Pandavas, not to go with sentimental values like that. So we have seen that. So Sanjaya is starting the conversation, Dhritarashtra is starting the conversation, then Sanjaya is narrating everything, what is happening in the war scene. So once we come to the picture of the war, then there is mentioning of signs of victory. So I'm gonna, because I didn't cover that very much last couple of times, I'm gonna go through what are the signs of victory of Pandavas. How do we think, or why do we think the victory will be on Pandava's side? There are signs given. Let's see. So one is Krishna is personally present with Arjuna. Okay, wherever Krishna is, there is victory, because Krishna is with Lakshmi is always with Krishna. Correct? Madhava means goddess of fortune's husband. That is Krishna. Therefore, we can see that wherever there is Lakshmi, wherever there is Krishna, Lakshmi is present. And wherever there is Lakshmi, victory is present. But we need to also understand Lakshmi is wife of Krishna, correct? And Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. It is not that because of Lakshmi, Arjuna is victorious. Not like that. But it is giving credit to Lakshmi Devi also. Okay. And then the venue itself, Kurukshetra. There is a story behind the Kurukshetra itself. There was a king who married the daughter of the sun god, and then had a child, and then the child name is Kuru. His name is Kuru, King Kuru. And he was very pious and religious king, and he wanted to have this world, entire world, to be very religious and austere and cleanliness and everything. So what he did was he started to plow the field by severing his body, cutting the pieces of his body, and he was sowing the seeds from his body. Those days, in those days, a long time ago, they can do things like that. We will be wondering how come, but they can do like that from pious activity or tapasya. So he was doing that, using thighs for religion and hands for, other things like cleanliness or austerity, so good fortune, so things like that. So he was adding the value to the world by giving up his own body, sowing the seed, so that will grow in future, and the entire world will become prosperous. That was his idea. After seeing this, Vishnu was very pleased, and then he offered a benediction. Then the King Kuru asked, how about you name this place after me, and also you declare that whatever that takes place in this particular place, that becomes that favors the dharma, and that it become victorious. And Vishnu said tatastu, that means let be it. So he sanctioned the benediction, and that place or kshetra has become Kurukshetra. That is what dharma kshetre Kurukshetre. That means dharma takes place in such place. So, and victory is present. Wherever dharma is there, victory is present. Even though material conception, we see that, that is the, you follow dharma, that means you can't be victorious in this Kali Yuga. That is in one sense true, but by under the law of nature, the law of dharma is always victorious. Whenever we follow dharma, we are always victorious. Whether today or tomorrow doesn't matter, we will become victorious. And then Hanumanji on Arjuna's flag. We narrated a whole pastime of how Hanumanji, blessed Bhima, and that story we saw. And then conchal, Vishnu's conchal is transcendental. Krishna paraphernalia, whatever he possesses, whether a peacock feather or his jewelry or his costume, whatever it is, the outfit, everything is transcendental, of course, including his conscience also. So that is again telling Pandava's conscience and Arjuna's conscience and Krishna's conscience are transcendental, whereas on the other side their conscience were not transcendental. And Bhishma did blow his conscience to pacify Duryodhana's agitated mind, just to say, okay, calm down, anyway they are going to be victorious, let's just do the part, that's all. So that also indicates the victory for Pandavas. And then Agnideva. So one time Agnideva was having a tummy pain, so much stomach pain, because of the yagya that happened in in one particular place in on Vana of forest. Agnidev, because they use fire sacrifice, right? So it was a very massive fire sacrifice. They have to throw a lot of ghee into it, correct? So the Brahmanas were chanting the Vedic hymns and they were throwing, they were giving the ghee to the Agni Purush. And because the Agni Purush has to swallow everything, it became very too much for stomach. Even we eat too much ghee sweets, what happens? We will suffer from stomachache, correct? Agnidev is also like a person. It's not that it's formless or anything. The moon god, sun god, they have their roles to perform. They have a personality, the form and everything. So because he was suffering, that time Arjuna, through his bow and arrow, he just pacified the agitating fire from Agnidev's stomach, and he put the water by bringing plenty of rain and water. That actually calmed Agnidev down. So therefore he became very pleased, and therefore he said, okay, I'll give you chariot. So that's Agnidev's chariot. So there are so many blessings and gifts from celestial personalities like Agnidev, Indra, and Indra gave celestial weapons also, and Lord Shiva. So because of all those fortune, and of course Krishna is there, that's most important. Even if you don't have any of this, if Krishna is with us, victory is there. So that also capable of conquering all direction, that chariot given by Agnidev. So that was very powerful. It's not ordinary. And then conch shell that was blown by Pandavas, that shattered the Kauravas' hearts. So that again tells, sometimes the enemy is not very much capable to compete with the opponent. He'll be fearful all the time, correct? So that is what happening with Gaurava's side. So that is also a sign. Why that was happening? Because the Pandavas were very confident Krishna was with their side. That is why. Okay, so that is what we've seen so far, and we'll go to 30th verse. This is 30th, I think. Oh, 31st. Okay, we'll go to 31st verse. Let's see what was 30th verse. Okay, so 30. Nacha saknami avastatum brahmati vachame manaha nimittani cha pashyami vipritani keshava. So Krishna, Arjuna is telling to Krishna, I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself. My mind is reeling. I see only cause of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of Kasi demon. So interestingly, throughout Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna will be addressing Krishna in several names. Similarly, Krishna will call Arjuna in several names, different names like Gudakesa, son of Pritha, and Dhananjaya, things like that. So there are reasons behind it, right? And here Kesava means who killed the Kasi demon, the horse demon Krishna killed. Therefore you kill my ignorance, my doubts, because what is happening to me I don't know. I can't stand any longer. So I'm just feeling the giddiness. Sometimes you are very much anxious and stressed about something. You are not able to stand on your feet, so and you're just losing your mind. So that kind of feeling Arjuna is having, because he's foreseeing, not because he has any he is Trikala Muni or something, he can see past, present and future. No, not because of that. Because he is a dharmic person, he is a pious person, he can see that if the war is going to happen, there are so many people who will be killed, and therefore there are so many other misfortune can come along with that calamity, and we don't want that. We want to stop that. So that is all happening within his mind, his thinking, and that is why his position is very bad. His mental and physical position, he is exhibiting those symptoms. Okay, and here let's see the next verse. And it is said that there are 64 crores of warriors were killed in Kurukshetra war. It's not 1,000, 2,000. It was 64 crores. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So verse 31, Na cha shreya anupashyami hatva swajanam ahave na kanksha vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam shukani cha. See, he is telling to Krishna, I can't see any victory. Vijayam means victory. Vijay means victory, correct? I don't see any victory by doing this, and I don't see sukham. Sukhani means happiness. Why? Because I don't see it. Why we'll see later. And he is saying that Shreyaha means the goodness. I don't see any goodness coming out of this war. I don't see any Sukhani, that means happiness coming out of this war. And Vijayam, the victory, I'm not going to reap any victory. So what is there? And I'm going to kill my own kinsmen. I'm going to fight. In the fight, I'm going to kill my Swajanam. Swajanam means my own relatives and own friends and family. See, here he is talking in the material platform, in the level of material platform. If you see, we are all doing that, correct? We all do that. Because the real self-interest, if you are really interested in someone's well-being, then you will give Krishna to them. That is the real well-being, because your body is temporary, correct? Not just your body, my body, everyone's body. Whoever taken this material body, which is made up of Pancha Mahabhuta, earth, water, fire, and air and ether, this is going to die, which we will discuss in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. But for now, we'll just briefly see that Arjuna is not looking into the soul level, Atma level. If he is looking at Atma Tattva level, he will very much understand that this body is going to perish anyway. If I kill now, today, or 10 years later, he is going to die anyway, whoever assembled in the war. And they are not these warriors are my Swajana, everyone is my Swajana. Why? Because Krishna says, Mama is Mansa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. That means everyone is part and parcel of me only, Arjuna. So everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. It's not that animals not part and parcel, or Devi Devatas not part and parcel. No, everyone, we already discussed the analogy, right? So if there is a gold mine and there is a gold particle, the gold particle coming from the gold mine, or if there is a big fire and the fire spark is coming out of the fire, that the spark is the living entities. So individual sparks is individual living entity, and the entire fire is Krishna. Okay, and if the spark comes too much disconnected from Krishna, that is when it loses the connection, correct? Because if we are not connected with Krishna, that's when we are not happy. Okay, it is like fish out of the water, how it is not happy and die. Similarly, we also will not be happy. We are not happy, right? We are not 100% happy all the time. We are happy sometimes and we are sad most of the time for whatever reason. Whether the things happen or going to happen or happening, we are always worried, anxious about something or the other. That is our problem. And Arjuna is also looking at this in a perception. These are my Swajanas. But the Swajana, if he look at in the Atma Tattva level, not just in the level of bodily platform, he will understand that, oh, everyone is part and parcel. Now I have to be worried about everyone else, correct? Not just these people. Therefore, let me give them, let me take up this Rajyam, kingdom, and give them all Krishna consciousness to all the prajas. That is not his consciousness. See, sometimes Krishna put the devotee, his own dear devotee, in a position where the devotee acts like an ignorant person. For example, in this situation, Arjuna acts like as if he doesn't know Atma Tattva. He of course knows, but Krishna puts him in that illusion temporary illusion. We are always an illusion only. But for Arjuna, only for that moment, for the sake of giving Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna puts him in the illusion so he can ask questions like this, he can become anxious like this, so that we all see and relate to him. Oh yes, I am also worried when I lose my loved one, lost my loved one. I also get worried, correct? Everyone will get worried if they lose their loved ones. And if there's something happened to their loved ones, they get worried. They become very stressed and sad. This is very natural. But once we know this Atma Tattva, then we will understand this is all part and parcel of happening in the life, and we are all part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, we will know what to do next. Okay, which we will learn in second chapter. So, okay, anyone can read. Let me see who can read today. Deepthi, do you want to read this translation, please?
I don't see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle. Nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, freedom, or happiness.
Okay. Have you finished reading?
Should I read the purport also, Mataji?
No, just the translation only. Did you read the verse 32 to 35?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mataji, I was reading 31.
32 to 35, please.
O Govinda, of what avail to us a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now laid on the battlefield. O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, and maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O, o maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will be derived from killing the sons of Srirashtra?
Okay, thanks Deepthi. So Govinda, Arjuna is calling a Govinda because Govinda means who gives pleasure to cows and also the senses. Okay, so Arjuna is calling this way because he is expecting Krishna to satisfy Arjuna's senses, which is not correct, because we are in the position to satisfy Krishna. So when you satisfy the master of the senses, Hrishikesha, that is Krishna, automatically our senses will become satisfied. Correct? When you offer food to Krishna, what happens? He eats. He doesn't necessarily have to eat through with his hands or anything. He can eat through his eyes also. That is Krishna. That is inconceivable, right? And when he accepts that offering from us and gives you back whatever the food, the remnants, it is called prasadam. That is mercy of Krishna. And when we accept that prasadam, it becomes much tastier. I know you might have experienced that when you offer food to Krishna, you will taste it and it becomes much tastier than how it was before you used to offer food to Krishna. Correct? So this is because Krishna's saliva is present in the food that we offered. Correct? So, and when we expect Krishna to satisfy our needs, that is when the problem comes, because we are in the position Jivera Swarupa Hoi Krishnera Nityadas. Jiva's Swarupam is, the nature is of Jiva or living entities is to satisfy or serve the Lord Krishna. Krishnera Nityadas. How? Nityam, permanent, eternally serve him. That is our original constitutional position. When we forget that and try to satisfy or serve our own self or our loved ones, that becomes not Krishna consciousness. That becomes a material consciousness. Correct? So it is not that you shouldn't look after your family members or your own self. No, not like that. But you are keeping Krishna in the center and taking care of everyone nicely in the footsteps of Acharyas, how they have given instruction in Bhagavad Gita and things like that. Okay. It's not the Acharya give you instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives instruction to Arjuna, that is translated by Prabhupada, and the purport is given in a way that we can understand it easily. And when we follow those statements and instructions, we can definitely see the results. Okay, and here Arjuna is pretty much misusing the name Govinda, even though he thinks that is what he is addressing for. Still, he is misusing, as we just discussed. And what is the right conception of using that Govinda word is that we satisfy Krishna's senses, and then we can enjoy with Krishna. Not that enjoy by ourselves, but we enjoy with Krishna. Krishna had food. Now after he had food, we also have food. Now we both enjoying. Correct? Alright. And there is a nice purport in the purport. It says that Prabhupada says everyone wants to show off his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all of them will be killed on the battlefield. See, you have something to show to others, and if no one is there, who will you show? Correct? We saw the example of getting married, and what happens if you don't have any relatives? You want to show off your nice clothes and jewelry and the palatable food and everything to your relatives, but no one is there in your wedding, then who you are going to enjoy with? So that is how Arjuna feels that if I kill everybody, no one will be there to enjoy with. Correct? What is the point of having this kingdom? Arjuna did not want to kill his relative, even there was any need to kill them. He desires that what he actually wanted is let Krishna kill. Why I should kill? Let him kill. I don't want to take the sin. See, and there are 5 reasons why Arjuna wanted this war to be avoided, because one, he is very compassionate. Okay, that we discussed in last couple of verses, 28 and up to 30. So he is so compassionate. He is kind-hearted, soft-hearted. Naturally, devotees are like that. Correct? Because of that reason, he doesn't want the fight to take place, the war to take place. And second is enjoyment, as we are discussing now from 31 to 35. There is no one will be there to exchange this victory, to exchange this victory and enjoy with. There is no one in the kingdom. Then what is the point? So the enjoyment, he is in the mood of who do I enjoy with? So that is one reason. Third is fearful of sinful reactions, which we will discuss next. Papameva shrayat asman hatvaitan atatinah tasmanarha vayam hantum dardarashtra. Supposed to be Dhritarashran sabandhavan svajanam hi katam hatva sukhinah shyama madhava. Translation: sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressor. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? See, this is where it is coming, and Prabhupada nicely tells who are the aggressors that can be killed. So, sins will overcome us if we slay such aggressor. So, Arjuna is telling that this is the third reason. He is telling that if I kill them, that is a sin, right? Killing your own relatives means sin, and that is not correct. And I will have to suffer the sinful reactions, whether in this lifetime or in future lifetimes. I have to suffer the sinful reaction, correct? So I don't want to kill because I will get sin. But aggressors, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. One is poison giver, okay? And Duryodhana gave poison cake to Bhima at one stage when they were much younger, to kill Bhima, because they were always inimical to each other. They didn't get along very well at all. So Duryodhana didn't like Bhima because he thought he is the only strongest person that who has the capacity to kill Duryodhana. So he was always afraid of that fact. Therefore, he wanted to kill Bhima by giving poison cake. And then one who sets fire to the house. That also Duryodhana made arrangements nicely to set up a lakh house made up of wax, and then made the Pandavas and Kunti Maharani to go stay there. and then when they are asleep, they're gonna set fire. That was the master plan, and they did exactly that. But what happened was Vidura, who is the uncle of Pandavas and Kauravas, he went and gave signal to Yudhishthira Maharaj in a poetic way that no one could understand, only intelligent people can understand. See, devotees are very intelligent naturally, correct? If you see, because unless or until you're intelligent, you wouldn't have taken up this Krishna consciousness, correct? If you are in this path already, that means you are already an intelligent person. So we can understand the mood of other devotees also when they come and communicate with us. As we advance, as we progress in our bhakti, we can understand the mood of our guru, other devotees, and also Paramatma that staying within our everyone's heart. So when Vidura passed the message in that way, that a very encryptical way, a coded, encrypted code, that no one could understand, but Yudhishthira Maharaj understood and then told everyone that okay, we are now leaving. So they digged underground and they escaped from that lakh house that was set on fire, and they escaped, and we know the story what happened after that. So that is one type of aggressor, and then one who attacks with deadly weapon. Now they are all waiting to kill Pandavas with the deadly weapons. That is also one aggressor. And then plunders riches, like Sakuni made such nice cheating plan to go ahead with gambling match, so that way they can plunder riches, they can occupy their land and occupy their wealth. They did that. So that is also fourth and fifth one. And sixth one is who kidnaps the wife. That kidnaps the wife or disrobing Mother Draupadi. They did that also. And also Jarasandha also had that kidnapping Draupadi also. That was also another scene. So these are the 6 kinds of aggressor must be killed as per Dharma Shastra. But Arthasastra as per Arthasastra. But Dharma Shastra, Arjuna is looking at the view of Dharma Shastra. Therefore, he thinks the religious activity, when following religious activity, you can't kill your own kinsmen regardless of what they have done. That is Arjuna's point, which is true. But Krishna's point is as per Arthasastra, which is talking about sociology, politics and economics, those kind of things. You should kill those aggressors. Even if they have done at least one of these 6, they deserve to be killed. But what to speak of all these 6 done by Kaurava's side? Then they must be killed, no doubt. Correct? So that is one explanation nicely given by Prabhupada. So 37 and 38, verse number 37 and 38. Let's see. So continues with the sin. Okay. O Janadana, although these men, their hearts were overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends. Why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engaging in these acts of sin? So now see, Arjuna is calling Krishna as Janardana. That means, Janardana means who is the protector of all people, Janas, okay, everyone. Now when you are in the position to protect everyone, but same you telling me to kill everyone, how can that be fair? That's how he is, that's why he is addressing Krishna as Janardana. But what is his point? He is saying that, look, these opponents, they are very greedy. They are, Lobha means greed. They are very greedy. And they are ready to, kill us, even though, we are their relatives. They are ready to kill the entire family members and they don't see any crime. We see that, right? They don't see. Doesn't mean we shouldn't see either. We are able to see this is wrong, this is adharma. Then why are we doing it? Why are we engaging ourselves in sin? See, it is said when Kshatriya dharma is to engage in fighting. They don't have any other duty. Occupational duty for Kshatriya is to fight. And when Kshatriya is invited for fighting, he will be very happy. You know how we discussed last time, when devotees are invited for festival in the temple, they are so happy to come and participate in the festivity mood with everyone and taking darshan of the Lord and engaging in the service and eating prasadam. That is very important. especially that's why I most of the time go to temple, and this is all the things that why we go, correct? And similarly the Kshatriyas, they come and engage in fighting, and as soon as they know there is going to be war that's going to take place, then they go, they pack up things and they go. And why packing up means they don't pack up like us, like a backpack and everything, but they whatever they need, the weapons and everything, they pack and go. And why? Because Kshatriyas, when they die in the battlefield, they go to heavenly planets. That is for sure, because they have died for the sake of the kingdom, correct? Similarly, even in today's world, in this modern age also, people who are in administration, the army, if they die for the sake of the country or the nation and things like that, they also attain heavenly planet, okay? But still it depends on the intention also. But if the intention is wrong, then it is difficult, but otherwise naturally that is said. So therefore there is no loss. But that we will discuss. Krishna will answer that questions to Arjuna. Okay, and next verse. Kulakshaya pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharma naste kulam na krishnam adharma abhibhavati yuta. See, Arjuna is telling all this because he has studied Vedas, correct? So he know what is dharma, what is adharma, correct? And because he has studied, he is saying that Kulakshaye pranashyanti. Pranashyanti means it will be destroyed. What will be destroyed? The kula. The kula will be destroyed. The family tradition will be destroyed. Correct? Kula dharma means tradition, family tradition. And how? Sanatanaga. It will be destroyed forever. It will be destroyed. The eternal family tradition will be destroyed. Correct? Dharmanaste kulam krishnam. That means if, let's read the translation. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in religion. Because of the family tradition is destroyed, because of that, the family will be engaging themselves in religion. See, there is Varnashram and Varnashankara. There are two kinds of technique. What do you say? That Varnashram is dharma and Varnashankara is adharma, like the two features in society. One who follows Varnashram dharma, then they can attain eventually the God consciousness, okay? When they don't follow, that is when it is called Varnashankara. Varnashankara means one who is not following the family tradition and going in the religious way. So Arjuna's point is when we destroy the family tradition, they don't know, because the ancestor, the forefathers, ancestors or grandfathers, whoever come and participated in this game, the war game, not game but it's a real war, what happens is they were the one who were teaching the young ones the nice family tradition and everything. Even in our families, in olden days, these days even our own family members don't know what is family tradition. They just follow a few things but not very thoroughly they do that or follow that, and even they don't know the reason for why they are doing, correct? But in olden days, our great grandfather, grandmother, grandfather, they used to do things and they teach us also, this is our family tradition, you follow. But in Vedic days, it was even more strict in following the family tradition, and they were very thorough and they were knowledgeable also, and they were following also, the young ones were following, correct? And if the old ones were not present because they are dead, and the young ones, the family members, whoever left, right, and killed, and the young ones will not be able to follow the old ones because no longer the old ones are living. Then what happens? They do whimsically things. They do their things whimsically. They don't know what is right, what is wrong. They do whatever they want to do, and then they engage themselves in that kind of adharma. So that is said. So up to verse number 43, we will see the same. Arjuna will go step by step. Because of this, it will happen. Because of that, this is going to happen. So he is foreseeing everything. The Dharma Shastra, Sakshu, in the vision of Dharma Shastra. Adharma abhibhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulashriya Strishu dustasu varshneya jayate varnashankaraha. So this is what I said. Varnashankara means unwanted population. Varnashram means one who is following the right order of life. Varnashankara means unwanted population. What happens is the woman, let's say, read the translation. When religion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the woman of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. So Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Vrishni because he is the descendant of Vrishni. And how Krishna will feel if someone tells Krishna, you go and kill your Vrishni Kula, then how would Krishna feel? That is how Arjuna is addressing. Sometimes your sister and you are fighting with each other. Your sister calls you monkey and you also say, okay, let me call you monkey, then see how you feel. That is how I felt. Sometimes we talk like that. So very childishly, Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Vrishni, thinking, if I ask you to kill Vrishni, how would you feel? Now you are telling to kill the entire Kuru dynasty. How would I feel? That is how Arjuna is presenting the names, using the names, how he addresses Krishna. And here his point though, even though he hasn't said anything, he only called Vrishni, but Acharyas gives us that explanation or analysis on that, okay? They expand on that. So we understand, maybe this is because of that mood, Arjuna is calling Krishna using this name, that name. Otherwise, how would we know? Because translation doesn't tell the reasons, correct? Okay. So what happened? Because the family is following religion, correct? Because of that, some woman whose husband already passed away in the war, the woman doesn't have anyone else to support her. No father, no husband, no brother, because all killed in the war. So she only has kids, maybe. Younger kids. So she has to survive and has to take care of the younger kids. What can she do? Nothing much. Because everything has been destroyed. What else she could do? So she would engage herself in something irreligious activity, because the men who are still alive become very lusty and may approach these kind of vulnerable women who don't have any support or any support, family support, men support. Then these kind of men, wrong men, will approach this vulnerable innocent woman and pollute them, pollute their mind and their consciousness, and then they can engage in their wrong activities, and they can give them children, and that children will become what? Unwanted population. That is not wrong, correct engagement, right? So if a woman and a husband getting married, having children, is the varnashram, following in the rules, 4 regulative principles, like that. But if say some other men having affair with any woman, and woman having affair with any men, it is not a varnashram, it is varnashankara, and the population born out of such relationship is called unwanted population. So this is the verse, the 4th reason we saw. Destruction of family will lead to this. So because of destruction of dynasty will do what it will do, the family tradition will stop. Because of that, adharma abhibhavati, it will increase, the adharma will increase. And because of that, kula stri means woman, kula means family woman. But pradushyanti, they also become destroyed, means polluted. In this context, it's polluted. Varana shankaraha is unwanted progeny. So unwanted progeny, the mixer of caste, okay, Brahmana, Kshatriya, like that. And Naraka, so what happens is he is worried about all this, and because of that it will, I'll go to Naraka. And even the Varnashankara, he is worried about, he is going to Naraka, that is another case. But here he is worried about hellish life for those who destroy the family and family traditions. Also it's hellish. It's Naraka means not hellish planet itself, but the life itself will become hellish for those women, correct? Padanti Pittaro, forefathers fall down, deprived of pinda offerings of food and water. You know, when in Amavasya, during Amavasya, what our family members will do in our home back in India is offer pindadan. They offer pinda, that is food, to the forefathers who have already passed away, correct? And what happens, why we do that? Because in Shastra says when you do those type of pinda activities, pindadan, then you are delivering your forefathers. Why? Because forefathers might have done their own activities, correct, own karma. They might have done sinful activities also. We all are engaged in sinful activities in one way or other, knowingly, unknowingly. That is why if we take up this path of bhakti, which is beyond these material karma and karma and vikarma, that is good activities and bad activities, bhakti is standing on akarma. That means it's no reactions, no whatsoever, no good reaction, no bad reaction. That is how it works. When you are in bhakti, what happens is you don't have to worry about all this. And when you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, automatically you are following in path of bhakti. Then you don't have to worry about doing any pinda offering to the forefathers or worrying about your own sinful reactions, because everything is vanished. Okay. So, kuttam bijam palam papam. That means whatever your inclination to do sinful activity, your proclivity to do sinful activity, or activity that you have done in the past life, or the one you're going to do, everything will be destroyed when you Vishnu Rakti, when you have Vishnu Bhakti. Okay, Vishnu Bhakti, when you have Bhakti for Krishna, automatically even the seed of your sinful activity, that you haven't even done it, just the seed, even that also will be destroyed. Okay, that you don't have to worry about if you're following the path of bhakti. But here generally, especially Varna Shankara, they are not following that, correct? They are not even following anything, and in fact they are following adharma, doing the opposite. Because of that, they can't offer pinda dan, because they don't know, right? Who will tell them to do that? And already the forefathers have passed away, like father or grandfather or brother who know the tradition, they also passed away, so they don't know, so they don't offer food, because the unwanted population, they don't even know what is the correct tradition, right? So when the forefather have done any sinful activities, the reactions are waiting. But when you offer pindadan, how you are supposed to offer? In India, not everyone knows that you are supposed to offer that food first to Krishna, and that take that Krishna prasadam and then offer that as pinda to the forefathers, pitrus. Then they will be relieved from sinful reactions very fast, and they don't have to go through the hellish life. They have to go through, right, the Yamalok. They have to go and they have to be punished for whatever they have done. So that will be reduced or destroyed depending on what you are doing for in the name of pindadan. Okay. So a correct process is offering to Krishna first, and then offer to that to forefathers, grandfathers, like that. Uchyadyante jati dharmaha kula dharmaha. Community projects and family welfare activities are destroyed as well. So we discussed that. This already we discussed that. And again, it is said that in this verse, it's coming from Bhagavatam, Devarishi bhutartha nirnam pitranam na kinkaro na yamrinicha rajan sharvatmana ya saranam saranyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. So anyone who takes shelter of that Mukunda means who is giving the mukti, the giver of liberation. When you are following him, when you have taken shelter of that Mukunda, you don't have any obligations. You don't have it. You don't have to do anything. So that is what the verse saying. Giving up all kinds of obligation and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the Devi, Devadas or sages or other living entities or own family members or the humanity or forefathers. You're not obliged to do anything for all of this, because you're watering the root of the tree that automatically give the nourishment to the twigs, branches, flowers, fruits of that entire tree. You don't have to separately water those individual parts and parcel of the tree. Similarly, when you serve the Lord Krishna, automatically the part and parcel, which are all other living entities, not just human beings, but also Devi, Devadas, the great sages, Brahmanas, everyone, even forefathers, Pitrus, everyone will be satisfied because you are following this path of devotional service. Okay, it doesn't mean you are not respecting your elders or not respecting your Devi Devadas or not taking care of your loved ones. It is not literally to be taken like that. Okay, we still supposed to do the duty nicely, even perfectly, better than ordinary human beings. And ordinary means who are not following devotional service. We should be doing better than them. Why? Because we are following Krishna, right? So what pleases Krishna is you are being compassionate like Arjuna, being nice to everybody and kind to everyone and loving all. It's love of God and loving everyone is the common principle of every religion that people follow. But the real religion is what? Loving Krishna or loving God, correct? So we discussed this also, giving unwanted children because of Varna Shankara. And Arjuna is saying he heard this by disciplic succession. See how we are supposed to learn the knowledge is through Guru, Sadhu and Sastra. Okay, Guru must be coming from the Guru Parampara, not just any Guru you can go and take shelter of. There are so many Gurus on earth, especially in India. You have hundreds and thousands of Gurus, even millions of Gurus. And are they coming from the disciplic succession? Are they following their own teachings? When one follows their own teaching, then he is called Acharya. When he is not doing that, he is saying one thing and doing something else, that is bogus Guru. We are not following them. We are following the Guru from disciplic section. Arjuna is telling here, oh Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. We discussed that also, right? Okay, before we come to 46, we go to 44. So what we have seen so far is his reasons, 4th reasons, destruction of family tradition. Now we are going to see, we are continuing with that. But his indecisiveness, okay, he can't decide what to do. That we will discuss in chapter 2, verse 6. Aho bata mahat papam kartum vivasati vayam yadraja sukha laubena hantum swajanam udyataha. Translation. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit great sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. See, what are we doing, Krishna? What kind of people are we? We are ready to even commit such great sin, knowing all these factors that I just mentioned to you, because I have heard this from Guru Parampara. So better for me, he's saying in the next verse, better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra's weapons in hand were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. So they are ready, even if Arjuna is not ready to kill them, they are ready to kill him. But I don't want, even if they want to kill me, I'm not using any weapons, even they are coming and killing me, that is okay. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. That is what Arjuna keeps saying. And next verse, the last verse. Sanjaya uvacha evam utva Arjunaha sankye rada upastha upavishat vishjaya sasaram chapam soga samvigna manasaha. Now what happened? This is the saddest moment for Arjuna. He lost his mind. He already lost his mind, his patience, everything. Now, what happened to Arjuna? Sanjaya is saying to Dhritarashtra, Arjuna having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. See, Arjuna has put his bow and arrow down. His bow is Gandiva bow, which is very special bow, Gandiva bow. And he has taken a vow that anyone tells me to put my bow down, I will kill them. That is for sure. So one time in Mahabharata, it is said that one time Karna was going to attack Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Yudhishthira Maharaj got hurt badly. And Karna insulted Yudhishthira Maharaj and saying, you are just useless, you're not strong enough, you're not even matching my strength. Therefore, it is cheap for me to, it is cheap for me if I kill you. Therefore, get out of here. Like that, he just insulted Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Yudhishthira Maharaj came. Arjuna heard that Yudhishthira Maharaj got hurt by a Karna. Arjuna immediately, out of love to his dear brother, he went and saw Yudhishthira Maharaj. When he came to see Yudhishthira Maharaj asked, Arjuna, did you kill Karna? Arjuna said, no, I did not kill Karna. I saw you, I came to see how badly you got hurt. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj became very angry and said, what kind of brother are you? Are you a coward? Some guy attacked me badly and you just came to see me to ask my well-being. Why didn't you attack him? Why didn't you kill him? If you were the right a brother and warrior, you meant to kill that person and then come and see me. You are not fit to be called as a great warrior, or you are not even fit to hold that Gandiva bow. Better put them down. Then Arjuna became very angry and he took the sword to kill him. That time Krishna stopped Arjuna. Arjuna, see, I know you wanted to kill the person, whoever said to you to put the bow down, because that is your vow. But for a Kshatriya, dishonoring or insulting a Kshatriya is equal to killing only. Krishna is giving a hint. Then Arjuna would insult Yudhishthira Maharaj very badly. Instead of killing Yudhishthira Maharaj, he would kill him through words. Badly, that what kind of brother are you, senior brother are you? You just you put everyone in trouble, especially Draupadi, and you only brought this situation here badly, and you are telling me that I am not fit. And he said very bad words and like that. Then immediately Arjuna bowed down to Yudhishthira Maharaj's feet and asked for forgiveness, because that is not correct, right? But he has to do that just for the sake of that vow that he has taken. So he had that kind of respect for bow, and he was even ready to kill his own brother, even though he wouldn't do that, but he became that much angry. But now you can imagine his mood, his mind, how much it was disturbed for Arjuna even put his bow and arrow aside. So that's how much soft he was, and he is very fit to receive signs of self-realization knowledge because of that soft-heartedness, because he is very non-violent. So that's all. That's the last verse, I believe. Let's just confirm. Yeah, that is the last verse, yes. So then next chapter would be contents of Gita summarized. So we have seen setting up the war, preparation of the war, and then we have seen the signs of the victory from Pandava's side, and how Krishna is Bhakta Vakshala, that means lover of his devotees, how he was ready to protect devotees, and he was even doing menial service like driving a chariot without considering himself as supreme, and still, but it doesn't mean his supremacy was anytime disturbed. No. It was always his supremacy was maintained. Still he is giving this kind of small service to his great devotees. That is Bhakta Vakshala. And Arjuna's 5 reasons not to fight, he was very compassionate, and he was fearful of sinful reactions, and he doesn't want the enjoyment because there is no one to enjoy with, and then destruction of family tradition. So these are the points that Arjuna was raising. Okay. Now what we do is open up the question session, question and answer. We still have couple of minutes. I can take questions if anyone has it.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Haribol Deepthi.
Mataji, I have a doubt that even though we are into Krishna consciousness, sometimes we also get confused, like how to differentiate between dharma and adharma in like situation, something like that. So what do we do in such situations?
So your question is, even though we are following the path of devotional service, sometimes we are also confused what is dharma, what is adharma. Is that your question, Deepthi?
Yes.
Okay. So when we follow Krishna consciousness, dharma and adharma, they are come under the platform of material conception. Okay, we are paradharma. We are our swadharma is paradharma, that is supreme dharma that we follow, which is following Krishna consciousness. For us, we don't have to worry about dharma and adharma, but it doesn't mean that we can do whatever wrong things we can do. No, not like that. What happens is Krishna, who is living as Paramatma in every living entity's heart, not just human beings, even Lord Brahma's heart, even little ant's heart. So because Krishna is residing as Paramatma, he will guide us what is dharma, what is adharma. So exactly Arjuna was in the position not to be able to differentiate what is dharma and adharma. For him, as per Dharma Shastra, as we said, he doesn't want to kill anybody even though they have done wrong things. Correct? But what did Krishna say? According to Arjuna, Krishna is telling do adharma. Correct? But on higher consciousness, when you go level higher up, under that sakshu or vision, divine vision, killing them is the dharma. So Krishna says in chapter 9, Sudara Charu, if my devotees somehow or other accidentally, knowingly or unknowingly follow dharma, but he would say accidentally follow adharmic path, what I will do? Bring them back to the dharmic path. So devotees do not have to worry about whether they are following dharma or adharma. Naturally, your Paramatma will give you idea, the hint, everything. And that is where Guru's role takes place in. Okay, Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, that is where their role plays a part. So you will ask their guidance. Like for example, I have a job offer, but that job offer is to kill animals. Okay, and I don't have a job. I have to live. I have to maintain my living, take care of my family members. But the job I've been offered is meat eating, or not meat eating, sorry, killing, producing meat. How can I reconcile that? That is adharma, but what I am following is parodharma. Then what should I do? You should take up the job if there is no other job you have, and you can at least take up the job and pray to Krishna that please help me to get out of this job. I have taken this job to maintain my living, my family members only. So please help me. So we ask Krishna. So when you're advanced level, like Tukaram for example, he's a great devotee of the Lord. He doesn't want to do jobs. Okay, all he wanted to do is pray to Krishna only, just to sing songs only. So he is a very advanced level, because we are not be able to do that kind of devotional service practically, especially in Kali Yuga. So therefore we take up whatever it is practically available, and from there you do more devotional service, engage yourself more, because the purpose of our living, maintaining our living, everything, to keep our body and soul together, to serve Krishna. If you are not serving Krishna, you take up the job, you can earn $100,000 dharmically, but you are not following Krishna consciousness. What is the use of your dharma? No use. Correct? Therefore, take up whatever offered, because Krishna is there as Paramatma in everyone's heart, as I said. So he knows what to be given, what to be tested as well. He will test you also, whether you are taking up or not. But it depends, case by case. If you have a specific scenario, you should go to your counselor or senior Vaishnava or Guru and tell them exactly the same scenario and ask guidance. Okay. Does it answer your question, Deepthi?
Yes, Mataji, it's very clear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari bol Sabri.
Hello.
Yes, Sabri.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
Mataji, nice Mataji. I only listened the last 25 minutes. It was nice, Mataji. Thank you for that. Mataji, I have a question.
Yes.
Mataji, for example, I know kind of what is sin and what is not sin, I kind of understand. But if you see, in reality, like, even in army or, people even kill each other, and they get awards. So, in opposite countries or things like that. In that case, what is good and bad is very subjective, isn't it, Mataji? If any other army, yeah. So, and even, and what I'm talking is like, so even killing itself is not a crime in that particular situation. So how does it one go about it? I'm talking about in general, the army thing, the the corporate greed, those kind of things. So it does still they get karma because still they kill others, but they get awarded by the society or the nation,
Yes.
So I'm just
So,
wondering.
so
what it
your
is. How does
question
it work?
is, yes, your question is, people are following the army duties, whatever they have to do by killing and opposing the other parties, other countries, and killing each other, and for that even policemen would kill thieves or whoever, and they get reward. But how come under the law of karma, how does it work? Is that your question, Badri? Sabarish?
Yes, Mataji, that's right,
Okay.
Mataji. Like when any two countries fight,
Yes.
even killing itself is not a crime in that case, isn't it?
Okay.
They award the more, that's my question. Correct.
Okay, so killing itself is awarded if the countries are fighting with each other. Correct. Okay. See, when we look at the law of karma, every single activity, even if you take a breath, your breathing, your walking, your every single activities are recorded, and they need to reap the benefits, whether it's karmic reaction or good reaction, whatever it is, everyone is entitled to receive the reaction, whether good or bad, whether in this lifetime or in next lifetimes. That is different. And when it comes to political killing these days, these are very much political, and also it's due to greed, lust. Krishna could answer the question to Arjuna. Arjuna will ask a question in number 2, chapter 2. Arjuna asked Krishna that what is one second. Why people are knowingly or unknowingly, why people are involved in sinful activities? Arjuna asking this question to Krishna in chapter 2. Krishna is telling lust only, Arjuna. It is all because of lust. So in this age, in Kali Yuga, no one is compassionate to other living entities, not everyone. Okay, and also everyone is asking, what is in it for me? And even though the countries are getting award or reward for their killing, under the law of karma, they are subject to be given punishment if their intention was wrong. And also, see, in olden days, what happens if someone, if a thief steals something, okay, steals some gold or diamond, something, what the king will do in the kingdom, he will make an arrangement and kill that thief or cut his arm, depending on level of crime that he did. Depending on the level of crime, he will get punishment. Okay, those days, in Vedic days. Why they do that as per Shastra? Because when they don't do that type of punishment, in next life they have to suffer a hell lot of things. To minimize their hellish reactions, the king will take in charge and give those punishment. In those days, even Krishna always wanted to support the devotees, the king, who are devotees. Why? Because when they become leaders, even Prabhupada mentions in many purports, when devotees become leaders, they will take care of the prajas nicely. The leaders will give the right path to the prajas by teaching them to follow the Krishna consciousness or bhakti. When everyone's common goal is Krishna, then no one will fight with one another. No one fight with another, correct? Because we all have different common goal. Not common goal. We all have different goals. Because of these different goals, what happens? There is an analogy. When there is a pond, you wanted to throw a stone in the middle of the pond, it makes the ripples around the stone. It's concentric circle, it is called. When the concentric circles are formed because of the one stone, it won't ripple with each other. Okay, it won't collide. But when you throw more than one stone, what happens? Lot of concentric circles form and they ripple with each other, it collides. This is what happening in the society at the moment. Everyone wanted to know what is in it for me, how can I enjoy myself and with my extended family members. That's all their motivation is. They don't know about what is dharma or adharma. They don't know, they will suffer sinful reactions. Because of those problems, the leaders are not good. That is the main problem we have. Because we don't have leaders, they are in bhakti or devotional service, they don't know how to lead the prajas. And because of those things, now we see the Bhagavad Gita, we saw unwanted progeny, unwanted pollution. That is what happening these days. So marrying to a woman who is already married, there's so many, irreligious activity taking place. Meat eating, animal killing, intoxication, illicit sex. If these 4 regulative principles are not followed, and whatever you do, you are saving your country by killing your enemies, still it is karma only. It is bad karma. It is going to be it is punishable, and there will be reaction. Okay, only because if Krishna telling Arjuna to kill the enemies, then it is not ordinary dharma or dharma, as I said, it is paro dharma, because the instruction coming from the Supreme Lord, then it is not punishable. In fact, it is to be glorified. That is why we are still glorifying Arjuna. Yudhishthira Maharaj was a great king. That is why Krishna wanted Yudhishthira Maharaj to take up the throne, so therefore he can lead the prajas in Krishna consciousness way, and he did that. Okay, so does it answer your question, Sabri?
Mataji, excellent answer, Mataji. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So thank you everyone for joining today, and we will see next week and chapter 2. And if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate, just message me. I will voice record it and send you the answer. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.